Chapter 15. The Women Who Never Look Back from This City. It was a humid dusk when Zara told me about the women who never look back. We were leaning against the exterior wall of the leather box, the neon sign flickering above us. My feet ached from a day of trying to sell illusions, and my mind felt heavier still from the lies I had been telling my mother. Zara exhaled a plume of smoke. "You know," she said quietly, "some women do escape. They leave Istanbul with a single suitcase and never glance at this city again." She spoke the words as though reciting a myth, her eyes distant. They just vanish, no calls, no postcards. They slip into another country or go back home, but they never cross these borders again. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to think we could be those women too, yet a hard truth lodged in my gut. No one leaves this city clean, a voice in my head reminded me, echoing something I had heard from an older girl months ago. If you survive Istanbul's underworld, you do it with scars, secrets and regrets so heavy they cling to your bones. The rumor mill churned constantly in Lulu and Aksaray. Sometimes, we heard a name of a girl we once knew. "Did you hear? She fled to Germany with a client," or "She took a bus back to Ukraine." Each story had the same hushed awe, as though the teller was describing someone walking on water. The women who left seldom reached back to share details. Maybe from fear, maybe from shame, maybe just wanting a fresh start. Zara flicked her cigarette butt, sighing. "A friend of mine, Nadia, left last year. She never answered my texts again. Another, Oksana, I heard she is in Switzerland now." She shook her head. "They must have faced so much to get out. Maybe that is why they cannot stand to look back." I glanced at the street, watching the swirl of people with heavy bags, the catcalls from corner cafes, the men drifting in and out of clubs. "Do you blame them for cutting contact?" I asked softly. Zara gave a sad smirk. "No. Maybe it is the only way to stay sane. If they called or wrote, they would taste the old nightmares again." At home, my mother's midnight prayers to a handful of folded dollars were intensifying. She would glance at me, eyes filled with a fragile optimism, and whisper, "We will be like them, the women who leave. We will never look back." I'd force a smile, pressing my hand over hers, but a voice in me always hissed, "Can we truly walk away without carrying the filth of this city on our souls?" One night she told me a half-dream she had had, seeing us on a bus, passing the border and never glancing over our shoulders. In the dream, Istanbul receded into darkness. She woke up crying, not from sadness but from the overwhelming longing for that dream to be real. Despite our fragile hopes, the city's grasp continued to tighten. I recalled the motto an older girl, Roxana, once drilled into me: "No one leaves this city clean, Inna. If you do leave, you carry it in your nightmares, in your bruises, in your regrets." She had said it with a bleak certainty, a haunted look in her eyes. Roxana herself was gone now, vanished. Possibly one of the women who never looked back. Or maybe she had been swallowed by the labyrinth of cheap hotels and side streets. I did not know. But her warning lingered. Sometimes I overheard men reminiscing about a girl who would run off. They spat her name with bitterness, as though her escape was a personal affront. The boss, Bekir, once complained about a Russian girl who disappeared after stealing a stash of fur coats. He recounted it like a betrayal. "I treated her well, gave her money. She left me with debt." The real subtext: she was property, and property was not supposed to slip away. Hearing them talk about these deserters made my blood boil. They never acknowledged the pain those women endured. Instead, they acted like an item had gone missing from the shelf. Another reaffirmation that, to them, we were never truly human. One late afternoon, I stumbled upon a ragged older woman leaning against a closed storefront. Her hair was streaked with gray, her dress wrinkled, eyes dull. She recognized me from the fur shop. Apparently she'd worked there before my time. "Sibyl," she introduced herself in a hollow voice. We exchanged a few words, and I learned she had tried to leave Istanbul last year. She made it as far as the Greek border but got caught, defrauded by a smuggler who took her money. She was deported back. Now she had no job, no home, drifting in the city's margins. She let out a brittle laugh. "I guess I looked back," she muttered, eyes roving the street. "I am the woman who could not burn my bridges. So here I am, older, used up, with nothing to show for it. The despair etched into her face rattled me. She was living proof that escaping was not a neat story of triumph. Even if you tried, the city could spit you back out, or perhaps your own ghosts pulled you in. A few days later, Zara confided in me a story she rarely told. One of her closest friends, Masha, had quietly vanished months ago. Zara only found out Masha had left from a text, "I am going, do not follow me, good luck." After that, radio silence. "It still hurts," Zara confessed, twisting a cigarette between her fingers. "I spent a whole night worried she'd been kidnapped. Then I realized she left on her own terms." She swallowed, tears glistening. "I hated her for not taking me with her. But maybe she could not. Maybe she needed to cut all ties to be free." That hammered home the loneliness of those who never look back. They sever connections like a wounded limb to save themselves. That might be the only real shot at freedom in a place like Istanbul. As I listened to these stories, I wrestled with my own conflict. Could I vanish without telling my mother? I dismissed the thought instantly. I loved her too much to abandon her, especially when she was so fragile, bruised by the man's abuse and her own guilt. We had to leave together, or not at all. But that sense of loyalty might chain me here forever. Meanwhile, Mother repeated the same hopeful refrain, "When we go, we'll never look back." She tried to reassure me we'd sever ties, even with old relatives who believed our rosy facade. We would start fresh, become new women who did not wear Istanbul stains. In my quieter moments, I doubted that was possible. I had no illusions left about emerging untainted. Each forced encounter, each bribe, each bruise left a stain on me. Even if we fled physically, I carried Istanbul in my nightmares. The city lived in the tension between my shoulders, the shame that flared whenever a man smirked at me, the hollowness in my chest. Zara was right. Escape doesn't restore your innocence. If I somehow reached a new place, Germany, Greece, or back to Ukraine, I would still wake at night, heart pounding at footsteps in the hall, expecting a locked hotel door to crack open. The women who left physically might find a measure of safety, but the city trailed them like a shadow. One evening, I dreamed of an old friend from Ukraine, a girl I used to share jokes with in school. In the dream, she was living happily by the Dnipro River, sun on her face, no concept of Istanbul's horrors. She invited me to join her, but every time I stepped forward, men's voices shouted from the distance, "Ina, come back!" I turned and saw a swirl of faces, Mustafa, the man at home, Volkov, Dmitri, every tormentor. I woke soaked in sweat, half sobbing, half panicked. That dream hammered in the same message: no one leaves this city clean. Even in illusions, I was chased by ghosts. If I truly left, maybe I would wake every night with the echo of their voices. Yet despite the gloom, I tried once to set a plan in motion. Yelena had re-emerged, offering to help me find a passport for Mother and me. I gathered the money, trembling with adrenaline, convinced we would buy the documents and vanish. My mother prayed over the dollars a final time, tears trembling on her eyelashes, but the fixer we met demanded double the usual rate, citing increased crackdowns. Furious, we realized we did not have enough to pay for both passports. Either I would go alone, or Mother would. We refused to separate, so we left empty-handed. On the way home, Mother wept silently, the city's damp air clinging to our skin like regret. A few weeks later, word spread that 2 Belarusian girls from Bakir's circle had disappeared. Some said they hopped a train west. Others claimed they boarded a flight with stolen IDs. Bakir cursed them as thieves, but Zara and I secretly cheered for them. Another pair had possibly become women who never look back. Their story spread hope among the younger newcomers. We can do it too. But it also triggered a crackdown. Bakir and Mustafa watched me more closely, suspicious I would attempt the same stunt. The man at home questioned my every move, rummaging in my room for hidden stashes of money. One night, Zara and I strolled near the Bosphorus, the water reflecting city lights. She confided that she might have a chance to leave. A Turkish man who treated her kindly offered to take her abroad. "He's not perfect," she admitted, "but it's better than rotting here." I studied her face, seeing the swirl of longing and fear. "Are you going to do it?" She shrugged, tears glinting. "I am terrified. What if he changes once, we leave? Or what if I cannot come back for you? I gripped her hand. If you get a real chance, go. Be the woman who never looks back. A lump formed in my throat. I meant it. Even if it killed me to lose her, I would not hold her down. She offered a sad smile. And you? Will you follow soon? I'm trying, I whispered, voice trembling. Me and my mother. Zara nodded, hugging me tight, the city's wind tossing our hair. We parted, uncertain if we would ever see each other again under normal circumstances. Walking home that night, I kicked an empty can along a deserted alley. My reflection skittered in a puddle, faint moonlight revealing a face so tired it was almost unrecognizable. The words hammered in my skull, "No one leaves this city clean." I sniffed the stale air, coughed at the stench of rotting trash. Even the physical environment seemed to confirm we would remain dirty, burdened by a film of exploitation. But I also remembered Zara's example, how she was on the verge of leaving. The city's filth might linger in her nightmares, but at least she would be physically gone. If that counted as unclean, it was still better than being devoured here. I found my mother in the kitchen counting bills again. She glanced up, a forced glimmer of excitement in her eyes. "We're almost there," she said, voice too bright. "If we do just a few more." I cut her off gently, pressing a hand on her shoulder. "Mama, what if we never get enough, or if something goes wrong? We might leave physically but still carry these scars." Her face fell. "I know. But you deserve a fresh start, Inna, somewhere you can let these memories fade." She squeezed my hand. "Women do it, right? They vanish." I exhaled shakily. "They vanish, but they never fully wash away what happened here." My eyes stung. "We can do it, but we'll never be exactly who we were before." She hugged me fiercely, tears smearing into my hair. "That's okay," she whispered. "As long as we're safe." At last, the day came when Yelena said she had final access to a new passport contact. If Mother and I pooled every single bill we had, plus letting the man at home think I was on another big job, we might swing it. My mother packed a small bag, hands shaking, muttering that we would be like those women who never look back. But fate had other ideas. On the way to meet Yelena, we were followed. Possibly Bekir's men or someone else suspicious. Alarmed, we ducked into a side alley. Yelena texted me that she had postponed the meeting for safety. My mother clutched her suitcase, tears in her eyes. We trudged home, hearts pounding. The man at home was waiting, suspicious, demanding where we went. We lied, saying we had gone shopping. After that near brush with freedom, I realized how fragile these attempts were. The city's watchers, the tangled network of abusers, all threatened to sabotage any escape. My mother's suitcase remained half-packed in the corner. We never fully unpacked it. Maybe we needed that reminder of hope, battered though it was. Despite the heartbreak, we clung to the notion that we could become those women who vanish. Zara's stories, the hush of rumor about girls who took flights without return, the text messages that ended abruptly, these formed an odd mosaic of possibility. Yes, no one leaves this city clean, we accepted that. But maybe we could leave, period, even if we carried Istanbul's grime in our memories. If that were the best we could do, we would take it. My mother's calloused hands, carefully folding dollars in the dead of night, testified to our unwavering resolution. I reflected on the lines from an older friend. "When you leave, you must shut your eyes and never turn around, or the city's spell might drag you back." If that were the rule, we would abide by it. We would pack minimal possessions, slip out at dawn or midnight, hold each other's hands, and refuse to glance over our shoulders. Even if it meant living with nightmares, it would be a life outside this cage. We had to believe that. Because if we let cynicism win, we would remain forever in Istanbul's jaws, doomed to watch more naive girls arrive and more illusions burn. And in that place, there was no life left for us, only more bruises, more tears, more heartbreak.